All right, let's talk about the fascinating architecture of the mind. Today, we're exploring how some brains are wired to process the world in a fundamentally different way. I mean, seriously, do you ever find yourself pausing a little longer in conversations, or maybe feeling the weight of a decision way more than your friends do? If any of that sounds familiar, you're gonna want to stick around, because what you're experiencing isn't a glitch in your system.
And this right here, this is the single most important idea we're going to unpack. It's a complete reframe. See, the world often mistakes depth for slowness, but they are not the same thing. Not even close.
So, let's get into it. What is deep processing? What does that even mean? Let's break it down.
Okay, so at its core, it's really just a tendency to engage with information, way more thoroughly. Whether we're talking about a conversation, a decision, or just walking into a new room, your brain is digging in on a much more detailed level. It isn't just receiving data, it's actively cross-referencing it, analyzing it, and connecting it to this huge web of everything you already know.
And this is a really helpful way to think about it. We all use both of these thinking systems, right? But a deep processing brain has a dominant system 2. While others might default to that fast, intuitive system 1, your brain's default setting is the deliberate, analytical system 2. It's kind of like having this super powerful analysis engine just running in the background all the time.
So what does that actually look like in real life? Well, that preference for System 2 thinking creates some pretty specific traits. Let's go through 7 hidden signs and see if any of these feel a little too familiar.
All right, first up, and this is a big one. It's all about decisions. If you've ever felt like even small choices are a monumental task, this might be why.
I mean, this is System 2 in its natural habitat. A seemingly simple choice like, hey, what's for dinner, can suddenly spiral into this complex analysis of cost, health, time, and potential leftovers. You're not being indecisive, you're just running a much more comprehensive simulation of all the possible futures. Okay, moving on to sign number 2. This one is all about perception and what your brain is actually picking up from the world around you. Because you're processing all that sensory input so much more thoroughly, you just notice the little things. That slight shift in someone's tone of voice, that one tiny detail in a room that feels a little off, you catch it. It's like your brain is taking in a higher resolution picture of the world. And look, this depth isn't just intellectual, it's emotional and sensory too, which actually brings us to the next 3 signs, because they're all connected. Number 3, you experience emotions with crazy intensity, the good and the bad. Number 4, you're super prone to overstimulation. A crowded mall isn't just loud, it's an overwhelming flood of data for your brain to process. And that leads to number 5, you crave those deep, meaningful connections. You take a real conversation over small talk any day of the week because that's the kind of rich, complex data your brain actually loves to chew on.
All right, let's talk about number 6. And this one is so important, mainly because it gets misunderstood by pretty much everyone else.
You know that little pause you take before you answer a question? That's not a bug. That's not you being slow. That's your brain working. You're not just searching for a prepackaged answer in your head. You are actively building one from the ground up, considering all the nuance, the context, and the implications of what you're about to say.
And that brings us to our final sign, number 7. And honestly, this might be the most important one of all. Think about it. When your brain is constantly running this deep, analytical program 24/7, it just burns a massive amount of energy. So that need for alone time, it has nothing to do with being antisocial. It's a biological necessity. It's literally the time your brain needs to sort and file and make sense of all that high-def data it's been collecting all day long.
And that idea, that biological need to recharge, that brings us to what is probably the single most critical takeaway here for anyone who thinks this way. We're talking about the absolute, non-negotiable need for space. I want you to really let that sink in. This isn't some nice-to-have thing. It's not you being self-indulgent. It is as fundamental to your brain's health as oxygen is to your lungs. Without it, the whole system just starts to break down. And here's the kicker. You have to actively fight for that space. You have to build it into your life. Because let's be real, the modern world is not designed for the deep processor. It will try to fill every single quiet moment with noise and distraction if you let it. So okay, if all of this is hitting home for you, what do you do now? The goal isn't to somehow change the way your brain is wired. That's impossible. The goal is to change the environment you put it in. It's all about embracing your brain's natural architecture.
Because let me be clear, your brain's architecture is not a bug. It's a feature. Seriously. Your ability to see the nuance, to feel things so deeply, to think things through, that is a powerful, powerful asset. The world desperately needs more people who don't just react, but who actually reflect. This isn't a deficit, it's a superpower. It just requires a different kind of care and feeding.
So, let's make it practical. Here are 3 simple steps you can start with. First, just acknowledge it. Give yourself permission to need this downtime. Stop fighting it. Second, you've got to communicate it to the important people in your life. You know, a simple, hey, I just need some quiet time to process is a totally complete and valid explanation. And third, treat it like a doctor's appointment. Schedule that unstructured processing time right into your calendar, and then protect that time like it's gold.
Because in the end, that's the real question, isn't it? It's one thing to understand the blueprint of your mind. It's another thing entirely to become the architect of a life that actually allows that mind to thrive. So how are you going to build the space your mind needs? What's the very first brick you're going to lay?